The crimson warning lights of the Alliance medical frigate Asclepius cast everything in shades of emergency, as Lieutenant Commander Marcus Webb sprinted through corridors that reeked of ozone and desperation. His combat boots hammered against deck plating still warm from the ship's recent jump from hyperspace, the emergency klaxons drowning out everything except the thundering of his own heart. "Webb, get to Medbay 7 now." Captain Rodriguez's voice crackled through his comm unit, barely audible over the chaos. "We've got a situation that's way above our pay grade, and somehow you're the only one qualified to handle it. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you." Marcus skidded around a corner, his enhanced reflexes from years of combat zones keeping him upright as another tremor shook the ship. Through the reinforced viewports, he caught glimpses of the massive alien vessel that had intercepted them. A crystalline construct that seemed to bend light around itself, beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. The Zephyrian Empire, humanity's most enigmatic allies in the war against the Void Swarm, and easily the most technologically advanced species in known space. They rarely made direct contact with human ships, preferring to coordinate through long-range quantum entanglement communications. For one of their vessels to physically intercept an Alliance medical frigate meant something had gone catastrophically wrong. Marcus burst through the doors of Medbay 7 and stopped dead in his tracks. She was the most beautiful creature he had ever seen, and she was dying. The Zephyrian Queen, for there was no mistaking her royal bearing despite her obvious suffering, lay on a biobed that had been hastily modified with alien technology. Her skin held the characteristic opalescent quality of her species, shifting between pearl white and soft blues as her distressed biology struggled to maintain stability. Delicate crystalline structures that served as both crown and neural interface flickered weakly where they were embedded in her skull, their usual brilliant glow reduced to fading sparks, but it was her eyes that stopped Marcus cold. Ancient, intelligent, and filled with a desperation that transcended species barriers, they locked onto his the moment he entered the room. "You are the human xenobiologist," she said, her voice like wind chimes in a gentle breeze, speaking perfect standard, despite her obvious pain. "Dr. Marcus Webb." "Lieutenant Commander Webb," he corrected automatically, then immediately felt foolish for standing on protocol when facing alien royalty. "Your Majesty, How do you know who I am?" A ghost of a smile played across her lips. Lips that were far too pale for a healthy Zephyrian. "Your reputation precedes you, Dr. Webb. The human who saved the Altarian colonies from the bioplague, the xenobiologist who cracked the Void Swarm's reproductive cycle. The only member of your species to successfully adapt alien medical technology for human use." Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, like this video, it means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Marcus moved closer, his scientific mind already cataloging the readings from the hybrid monitoring equipment. Zephyrian physiology was largely a mystery to human medicine. Their biology was as crystalline as it was organic, powered by quantum resonance fields that human technology could barely detect, let alone manipulate. "I'm honored by your confidence, Your Majesty, but I have to be honest. I know almost nothing about Zephyrian medical needs. Our species have never shared detailed biological data." "Because we never needed to," she replied, struggling to sit up. Marcus immediately moved to support her, surprised by how naturally his hands found purchase on her shoulders without triggering what he knew should have been lethal bioelectric discharges. Zephyrians were notorious for their defensive capabilities. Until now. The Queen's crystalline crown pulsed once, and suddenly the medical bay's systems came alive with data streams Marcus had never seen before. Holographic displays materialized in the air around them, showing Zephyrian physiological charts, quantum resonance patterns, and cellular structures that defied everything he thought he knew about biology. "My name is Lyrelai," she said, her voice growing weaker. "Queen of the Third Hegemony, guardian of the Crystal Throne, and..." Her voice broke. "Mother to a daughter who is dying." The holographic displays shifted, showing the image of a young Zephyrian, clearly royal blood with the same opalescent skin and intelligent eyes as her mother, but smaller, more delicate. The child appeared to be in some kind of stasis pod, surrounded by medical equipment that pulsed with failing energy. Princess Aylin is my heir, my only child, Lirelei continued, tears that sparkled like liquid diamonds streaming down her cheeks. 3 cycles ago, she contracted the quantum fever, a disease that attacks the resonance fields that govern our biology. Our greatest healers have exhausted every treatment in our medical archives. Marcus studied the readings, his enhanced neural implants processing the alien data with increasing alarm. The child's quantum signature was destabilizing at an exponential rate. If he was reading the charts correctly, she had days at most before complete biological collapse. Your Majesty, I'm deeply sorry for your daughter's condition, but I still don't understand why you've come to me. Surely your people's medical technology is centuries ahead of ours. Because, Lirelei interrupted, her eyes flashing with desperate hope. According to our quantum archaeologists, your species may be the key to saving her. She gestured weakly, and the holographic display changed again. This time it showed what appeared to be an ancient Zephyrian artifact, a crystalline structure that seemed familiar yet alien at the same time. This is the resonance core of Ethon, one of our most sacred relics. Our histories say it was a gift from an unknown species, one that helped our ancestors achieve quantum consciousness over 10,000 years ago. For millennia, we believed the benefactor species was extinct. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine as he studied the artifact's design. The quantum resonance patterns, the harmonic frequencies, they were remarkably similar to the neural enhancement technology humans had developed during the early colonial expansion period. Until your people appeared in known space, Lirelei continued. Your neural implants, your ability to interface with quantum systems, your natural resistance to bioelectric fields, traits that should be impossible for a species that evolved on a single world. You think humans are descended from the species that helped your ancestors? Marcus said, the implications hitting him like a physical blow. I think, Lirelei said, reaching out to touch his hand, that humans are that species, that somehow, some of our ancient benefactors survived, lost their technology, and evolved on your Earth over thousands of years, and that your unique biology may be the only thing that can save my daughter. The contact sent shockwaves through both of them. Marcus gasped as unfamiliar sensations flooded his nervous system. Not painful, but intense beyond description. Through Lirelei's touch, he could feel her quantum signature, the fundamental resonance that defined her very existence. More importantly, he could feel how perfectly it harmonized with his own neural patterns. Lirelei's eyes widened in wonder. By the ancient light, it's true. Your quantum signature, it's completing circuits in my biology that have been dormant for millennia. You're not just compatible with our technology, you're the missing component. Marcus found himself unable to let go of her hand, drawn by sensations he couldn't begin to understand. Through their connection, he could feel her desperation, her love for her daughter, and underneath it all, a bone-deep loneliness that resonated with his own. Even if that's true, he said, his voice rough with emotion, I still don't know how. That helps, Princess Aylin. I'm not a doctor, I'm a researcher, and I've never worked with Zephyrian physiology. But you have worked with quantum resonance healing, Lirelei replied, her grip on his hand tightening. The Altarian bioplague, you didn't cure it with traditional medicine. You used quantum field manipulation to restructure the virus at the molecular level. She was right, though Marcus had never thought of it in those terms. The Altarian plague had been resistant to every conventional treatment until he'd experimented with using his neural implants to directly interface with the pathogen's quantum signature. It had been instinctive more than scientific. He'd somehow known exactly which frequencies to apply. The quantum fever works similarly, Lirelei explained, pulling up new holographic displays that showed the progression of her daughter's illness. It's not really a disease in the traditional sense. It's a cascade failure in the quantum fields that maintain cellular coherence. Your neural architecture, combined with Zephyrian quantum technology, might be able to stabilize the resonance pattern. Marcus studied the data, his scientific mind racing through possibilities. The theory was sound, if completely unprecedented. Zephyrian biology operated on principles that human science was only beginning to understand. But his neural implants had always shown an unusual affinity for quantum systems. The risk is enormous, he said finally. If I attempt direct quantum interface with Princess Aylin's biology and something goes wrong, I could kill her. Or worse, I could trigger a cascade failure that spreads to other Zephyrians. She is dying already, Lyra Lee said simply. Without intervention, she has perhaps 2 of your days remaining. And if she dies... Her voice caught. If she dies, the third hegemony falls into civil war. Without unified Zephyrian support, your alliance cannot stand against the Void Swarm. Billions of lives across dozens of species hang in the balance. The weight of responsibility settled on Marcus's shoulders, like a physical burden. He'd always known his xenobiology work was important, but this was beyond anything he'd ever imagined. There's something else, Lyra Lee continued, her quantum signature pulsing through their maintained contact. The procedure. It would require direct neural linkage between you and Aylin. Not just touching, but a full quantum entanglement of your consciousness with hers. The process is... intimate. Sacred. Among my people. Intimate how? Marcus asked, though he was beginning to suspect he already knew. Among Zephyrians, direct neural linkage creates permanent quantum bonds. You would become connected to her, at the most fundamental level, able to sense her thoughts, her emotions, her physical state, and she to you. Marcus stared at the holographic image of the dying princess. She couldn't be more than equivalent to a human teenager, though with Zephyrian longevity that could mean she was decades old. The idea of forming a permanent psychic bond with an alien child was both terrifying and oddly appealing. And the bond would be permanent? He asked. For both your lifespans, Lyra Lee confirmed, though there are compensations. Zephyrians who form neural bonds share quantum resonance fields. Your lifespans would synchronize. She would gain some of your species' resilience, while you would gain our longevity. You could live for centuries, together. The implications were staggering. Marcus had always expected to live a normal human lifespan, maybe enhanced slightly by medical technology. The idea of centuries of life, bound to an alien princess, was almost too much to process. Why are you telling me this? He asked. If I refuse, you could simply order me to attempt the procedure. The Alliance would back your authority. Lyra Lee's expressions softened, and through their connection he felt a wave of something that might have been affection, or respect, or both. Because, Dr. Webb, the bond cannot be formed under coercion. Quantum entanglement at this level requires willing participation from both parties. And because... She hesitated. Because if you save my daughter, you would not just be her healer. Among our people, such bonds are considered equivalent to family ties. You would become her guardian, her protector, her closest companion. Her what? Marcus asked, though the emotional resonance through their link was already giving him the answer. Her bonded mate, Lyra Lee said quietly. It is our way. Those who share quantum essence share life in all its aspects. Marcus felt the deck plating seem to shift beneath his feet. You're asking me to marry your daughter. I am asking you to save her life, Lyra Lee corrected. The bonding is simply the only method by which the healing can be accomplished. But yes, if you proceed, you would become bonded to Aylin in ways that your language barely has words for. The medical bay fell silent, except for the hum of alien technology and the distant vibration of the ship's engines. Marcus stared at the holographic image of Princess Aylin, weighing impossible choices. Save a dying girl and bind himself to an alien culture for centuries, or refuse and watch civilizations fall. I need to see her first, he said finally. Before I make this decision, I need to meet Princess Aylin in person. Lyra Lee's quantum signature flared with hope. Of course. She is aboard my vessel, in our most advanced medical facility. But Dr. Webb... She struggled to sit up further. There is one more thing you must know. Which is? The reason I am here. Rather than sending one of my healers to make this request, Lyra Lee said, her opalescent skin flushing with what might have been embarrassment. The neural linkage required for the healing. It cannot be formed with just anyone. The quantum compatibility must be perfect, or the procedure will fail catastrophically. Marcus felt his scientific curiosity warring with a growing sense of unease. And you determined I'm compatible how? Instead of answering directly, Lyrelai lifted their joined hands. Where their skin touched, a faint luminescence was visible, her natural bioluminescence responding to his bioelectric field in patterns that seemed almost like language. We have been scanning human neural patterns for months, she admitted. Of all your species, only you show the quantum resonance necessary for bonding with Zephyrian consciousness. Only you, Dr. Webb, can save my daughter. The weight of destiny, or manipulation, settled over Marcus like a shroud. Either the universe had conspired to place him in this exact position, or the Zephyrians had been orchestrating events to bring him here. Given their technological capabilities, either scenario was possible. Your Majesty, he said carefully, are you telling me this meeting isn't coincidental? That you arranged for your ship to intercept this medical frigate specifically to find me? Lyrelai's quantum signature flickered with what he was learning to recognize as emotional distress. Dr. Webb, my daughter is dying. If I had to manipulate the movement of entire fleets to bring you to her, I would do so without hesitation. A mother's love knows no boundaries. The honesty in her admission was both refreshing and terrifying. Marcus found himself looking at an alien queen who had just confessed to potentially engineering an interstellar incident to save her child. The scary part was that he could understand her motivation completely. All right, he said finally. I'll come aboard your ship and examine Princess Aylin, but I'm not promising anything beyond a consultation. Relief flooded through their neural connection as Lyrelai's quantum signature brightened. That is all I ask. Thank you, Dr. Webb. You cannot know what hope you have given me. As if summoned by their agreement, the medical bay doors hissed open to admit Captain Rodriguez, looking harried and more than a little intimidated by the alien technology now filling his ship. Webb, he said, I'm getting reports that half our systems are now running on alien power sources. Care to explain what's going on? Marcus looked at Lyrelai, who seemed to be waiting for his response. The moment felt pivotal. His last chance to back out before crossing a line he might never be able to uncross. Captain, he said, I'm going aboard the Zephyrian vessel to provide medical consultation. If I'm not back in 24 hours... He paused, looking at Lyrelai's hopeful expression. Send my research notes to the xenobiology department at Mars Colony. They'll know what to do with them. Webb, what the hell are you getting yourself into? Marcus helped Lyrelai to her feet, marveling again at how naturally their bioelectric fields synchronized. Through their maintained contact, he could feel her gratitude, her desperate hope, and underneath it all, a growing affection that both thrilled and terrified him. Honestly, Captain, he said, I'm not entirely sure. But I think I'm about to find out if humans really are the missing piece of an ancient puzzle. As they prepared to transfer to the Zephyrian vessel, Marcus caught a final glimpse of the holographic Princess Aylin. She looked so young, so fragile, suspended in her medical stasis. Whatever else happened, whatever bonds were formed or destinies fulfilled, she was a child who needed help. And Marcus Webb had never been able to walk away from someone who needed him. The transfer bay of Queen Lyrelai's ship was unlike anything in Marcus's experience, a seamless blend of organic curves and crystalline technology that seemed to pulse with its own inner light. As they passed through the airlock, he felt the subtle change in atmospheric composition, richer in exotic gases that made his enhanced neurons tingle with unexpected sensitivity. Welcome aboard the ethereal dawn, Lyrelai said, her voice stronger now that she was back in her own environment. She is the flagship of the Third Hegemony, and has been my home for over 2 centuries. Marcus tried to process the casual mention of centuries-long lifespans while marveling at the ship's interior. The corridors were vast and flowing, more like caverns carved from living crystal than traditional spacecraft passages. Bioluminescent panels provided illumination that shifted in response to their movement, creating an almost organic sense of the ship breathing around them. Your technology, he said, running his fingers along a wall that felt warm and somehow alive. It's not just advanced. It's almost biological. Our ships are grown, not built, Lyrelai explained, leading him deeper into the vessel. Quantum crystalline, matrices shaped by collective consciousness over decades. The ethereal dawn is as much a living entity as she is a spacecraft. They passed other Zephyrians in the corridors. Tall, graceful beings, whose opalescent skin and crystalline crowns made them seem like living art. Marcus noticed how they bowed deeply to their queen, but also how their eyes tracked him with undisguised curiosity. News of the human xenobiologist's arrival had clearly spread quickly. "They're wondering if you're the one," Lyralee said, apparently reading his thoughts through their neural link. "The human who might save our princess and fulfill the ancient prophecies." "Prophecies?" Marcus asked, but before Lyralee could answer they arrived at their destination. The medical facility occupied an entire section of the ship, a vast chamber filled with crystalline structures that hummed with quantum energy. At the center, suspended in a cocoon of softly glowing energy fields, was Princess Aylin. Marcus's breath caught as he saw her in person. Even in stasis, even clearly ill, she was breathtakingly beautiful. Her skin held the same opalescent quality as her mother's, but with an almost ethereal translucency that made her seem like she was fading away. Her crystalline crown was smaller, more delicate, its usual brilliance reduced to barely perceptible flickers. "Aylin," Lyralee whispered, moving to her daughter's side. "My darling, I've brought someone who might be able to help you." Marcus approached the stasis field, his scientific mind immediately cataloging the readings from the monitoring equipment. The quantum resonance patterns were even worse than the holographic displays had suggested. Princess Aylin's fundamental life force was unraveling at an accelerating rate. "How long has she been unconscious?" he asked. 6 cycles, Lyralee replied. "The quantum fever induces a coma state as the body tries to protect itself from the resonance cascade. She surfaces occasionally, but each time she's weaker." Marcus studied the monitoring equipment, noting how seamlessly his neural implants were interfacing with the alien technology. Data streams flowed directly into his consciousness, giving him an intuitive understanding of Zephyrian physiology that should have taken years to develop. "This is remarkable," he murmured. "Your medical technology isn't just scanning her, it's quantum entangled with her biological processes. You're literally monitoring her consciousness directly." "Yes," Lyralee said. "And through that monitoring, we can see how her quantum signature responds to various stimuli. Watch." She gestured, and the medical displays shifted to show Princess Aylin's neural patterns. Then, Lyralee reached out and took Marcus's hand again, and the displays exploded with activity. "By the ancient light," breathed one of the attending Zephyrian healers. "Her resonance is stabilizing." Marcus stared at the readings in amazement. Simply by maintaining physical contact with Lyralee, he was somehow affecting Princess Aylin's quantum signature. The chaotic patterns were smoothing out, becoming more coherent. "It's remarkable," he said. "My bioelectric field is harmonizing with yours, and that harmony is being transmitted to the princess through your genetic resonance. But it's temporary," Lyralee said sadly. "The moment we break contact, her patterns destabilize again. The only way to create lasting stabilization would be direct neural linkage." Marcus moved closer to the stasis field, studying Princess Aylin's peaceful face. She looked so young, so innocent. The idea of forming a permanent psychic bond with her was both terrifying and strangely appealing. Through his link with Lyralee, he could sense echoes of the princess's personality, intelligent, curious, kind, with a mischievous sense of humor that reminded him oddly of his younger sister back on Earth. "If I attempt this," he said slowly, "what exactly would the procedure involve?" One of the healers stepped forward, an elderly Zephyrian whose crystalline crown was more elaborate than the others. "I am High Healer Zorthak," he said in accented standard. "I have studied the quantum bonding process for 3 centuries. The procedure would require you to enter the stasis field with Princess Aylin, achieve direct neural contact, and then consciously synchronize your quantum signatures. And if something goes wrong?" "Catastrophic resonance cascade," Zorthak replied bluntly. "Both consciousness patterns would collapse, resulting in death for both participants." Marcus felt Lyralee's distress spike through their connection. The IDE Queen was asking him to risk his life for her daughter, and she clearly understood the magnitude of that request. "There is one more consideration," Zorthak continued. "The bonding process, if successful, will trigger immediate adaptation in both participants. Princess Aylin's physiology will begin incorporating human genetic patterns. while yours will adapt Zephyrian quantum characteristics. The changes would be irreversible. You mean I'd become part Zephyrian? Marcus asked. In a sense, Lyrelai said. Your consciousness would remain human, but your biology would become hybrid. Enhanced longevity, quantum sensitivity, bioelectric capabilities, you would become something new. Marcus studied his reflection in the polished surface of the medical equipment. Marcus Webb, xenobiologist, about to possibly become the galaxy's first human Zephyrian hybrid. It sounded like something out of a science fiction novel, not real life. I need a moment, he said. Lyrelai nodded, understanding. Of course. Zorthak, please show Dr. Webb to private quarters where he can consider his decision. As they left the medical bay, Marcus caught one last glimpse of Princess Aelin. For just a moment, her eyes fluttered open, and he could have sworn she looked directly at him. The expression on her face was one of desperate hope, as if she somehow knew he was her only chance. The guest quarters Zorthak led him to were spacious and beautifully appointed, with flowing crystal walls and furniture that seemed to grow organically from the floor. But Marcus barely noticed the luxury. His mind was spinning with the implications of what he was being asked to do: form a permanent psychic bond with an alien princess, risk both their lives in an unprecedented medical procedure, potentially trigger the first successful human-alien hybrid transformation in recorded history, and if he succeeded, spend the rest of an extended lifetime as the bonded mate of royalty from a species he barely understood. The rational part of his mind screamed that it was too dangerous, too unknown, too much responsibility. But another part, the part that had driven him to dedicate his life to helping others, whispered that a young girl was dying and he might be her only hope. His contemplation was interrupted by a soft chime from the room's communication system. Queen Lyrelai's voice filled the chamber, but there was something different about it, more personal, more vulnerable than before. Dr. Webb, may I join you? There are things about my daughter, about our situation, that you need to know before you make your decision. Marcus activated the door, and Lyrelai entered, looking somehow smaller and more fragile than she had in the medical bay. Away from her attendants and the formal setting, she seemed less like an alien queen and more like a worried mother. Your Majesty, he began, but she held up a hand. Please, just Lyrelai. If you're going to risk your life for my daughter, we're well beyond formal titles. She moved to the viewport that dominated one wall, gazing out at the stars beyond. In the crystalline light of the ship's interior, her opalescent skin seemed to glow with inner fire. There's something I haven't told you about Aelin, she said, quietly. Something that makes this decision even more complicated. Marcus joined her at the viewport, maintaining the physical contact that had become oddly natural between them. Through their link, he could feel her emotional turmoil: love, fear, guilt, and something that might have been shame. Tell me, he said simply. Aelin isn't just my daughter, Lyrelai said. She's my clone, created artificially when it became clear that I would never be able to conceive naturally. In Zephyrian society, she's considered my genetic continuation, not truly a separate individual, but an extension of my own consciousness. Marcus felt his scientific mind racing. That's why your quantum signatures are compatible. She's genetically identical to you. Yes. And it means that the neural bond you would form with her, the connection would extend to me as well. We would become a triad, linked at the quantum level. You wouldn't just be bonding with Aelin, Marcus. You'd be binding yourself to both of us. The implications hit him like a physical blow, not just a psychic bond with one alien, but with two. And if Aelin was truly Lyrelai's genetic continuation, then the relationship dynamics would be unlike anything in human experience. I'm sorry, Lyrelai continued, her quantum signature radiating distress. I should have told you from the beginning, but I was so desperate to save her, and I was afraid you would refuse if you knew the full complexity of what we were asking. Marcus turned to study her face, noting the tears that sparkled like diamonds on her cheeks. Through their neural link, he could feel her genuine anguish, not just for her daughter, but for the impossible position she was placing him in. Lyrelai, he said gently, are you asking me to bond with both of you because it's the only way? To save Aelin, or because it's what you want? Her emotional response through their link was so intense, It nearly overwhelmed him. Longing, desire, loneliness, and a deep affection that took his breath away. "Both," she whispered. "I won't lie. To you, Marcus. In the time we've spent connected, I've come to care for you more than I thought possible. The idea of sharing a quantum bond with you, of having you as part of our family, it's not just about saving Aelin anymore." Marcus felt his world shifting around him. What had started as a medical consultation was rapidly becoming the most important decision of his life. Not just whether to save a dying princess, but whether to bind himself permanently to an alien queen and her daughter, becoming part of a family structure that defied every human convention. "And Aelin?" he asked. "How does she feel about potentially bonding with a human stranger?" Lyralei's smile was sad and beautiful. "She's been asking about humans for years. Ever since we made contact with your species. She's been fascinated by your culture, your resilience, your capacity for connection across species barriers. When I told her about you, about the possibility of bonding," she paused. "She said she'd been dreaming of someone who felt like starlight and determination. Someone who could teach her what it meant to be brave." Through their link, Marcus felt an echo of something that wasn't quite Lyralei's emotion. Younger, more curious, tinged with hope and an almost childlike excitement. Princess Aelin, somehow reaching across the quantum void to touch his consciousness. "She's aware of our conversation?" he asked. "The genetic resonance between us means she experiences everything I do to some degree. She knows you're here, knows you're considering the bonding." "And Marcus?" Lyralei's grip on his hand tightened. "She's hoping you'll say yes." Marcus closed his eyes, trying to process the cascade of sensations and emotions flowing through their neural link. Somewhere in the quantum noise, he could sense Princess Aelin's consciousness, weak but persistent, reaching toward him with desperate hope. In that moment, his decision crystallized. "All right," he said, opening his eyes to meet Lyralei's gaze. "I'll do it. I'll attempt the bonding with Princess Aelin." The relief that flooded through their connection was so intense it nearly brought him to his knees. But underneath Lyralei's joy, he could sense something else. Princess Aelin's consciousness flaring with sudden strength, as if his decision alone had given her reason to fight harder. "Thank you," Lyralei breathed. And then she was in his arms, her lips finding his, in a kiss that sent quantum shockwaves through both their nervous systems. For a moment that lasted eternity, Marcus experienced true connection with an alien consciousness. Not just physical attraction, but a meeting of minds and souls that transcended species. When they finally broke apart, both were glowing with residual bioelectric discharge. "Well," Marcus said shakily, "I guess that settles the question of compatibility." Lyralei laughed, a sound like crystal bells. "Indeed. But Marcus, before we proceed, there's one final thing you must understand. The bonding ceremony, it's not just a medical procedure among my people. It's a sacred ritual, witnessed by the royal court and binding under Zephyrian law. If you go through with this, you'll become not just Aelin's bonded mate, but a prince of the third hegemony." Marcus stared at her. "A prince? With all the responsibilities that entails. You'd be expected to help rule, to make decisions that affect millions of lives, to become a bridge between our species." Her expression grew serious. "And if anything happens to me, you and Aelin would inherit the throne jointly." The weight of destiny settled over Marcus like a mantle. From xenobiologist to alien royalty in the span of a single conversation. It should have been terrifying, but instead he felt a strange sense of rightness, as if he'd been moving toward this moment his entire life. "When do we begin?" he asked. Lyralei's quantum signature blazed with hope and determination. "Now, if you're ready. Every moment we delay is a moment closer to losing her." As they prepared to return to the medical bay, Marcus caught a glimpse of himself in the crystalline wall, still human, still recognizably Marcus Webb, but somehow changed already. The man who walked back into that medical bay would be taking the first step toward becoming something entirely new. Behind them, the stars wheeled in their eternal dance, indifferent to the drama unfolding aboard the ethereal dawn. But Marcus felt as if the universe itself was holding its breath, waiting to see if love could triumph over biology, if connection could bridge the gaps between species, and if one human's willingness to sacrifice everything could save not just a princess, but the future of galactic civilization itself. The medical bay had been transformed in their absence, filled now with dozens of Zephyrian courtiers and healers, all gathered to witness what their quantum archaeologists were calling the most significant event in their recorded history. The ceremonial implications were clearly as important as the medical ones. "My people needed to see," Lyrelai explained quietly as they approached the stasis field where Princess Aelin waited. "If this succeeds, it will change everything we thought we knew about interspecies compatibility. And if it fails—" She didn't finish the sentence. Marcus understood. If he died in the attempt, it would be witnessed by the highest levels of Zephyrian society. The political ramifications would be enormous. High Healer Zorthak approached, carrying what appeared to be ceremonial robes woven from threads that sparkled with their own inner light. "Dr. Webb, if you are truly committed to this path, you must be properly prepared. The bonding ceremony requires traditional garments to facilitate quantum resonance." As Marcus changed into the ceremonial robes, he was struck by how naturally they seemed to fit, as if they had been designed specifically for his physiology. The fabric felt alive against his skin, responding to his bioelectric field with gentle pulses of warmth. "The quantum resonance is already beginning," Zorthak observed, studying readings from equipment Marcus couldn't identify. "Your neural patterns are adapting to harmonize with Zephyrian frequencies. Remarkable." Princess Aelin's stasis field had been modified as well, expanded to accommodate a second occupant. As Marcus approached, he could see her more clearly than ever before. The delicate features that marked her as royalty, the way her silver hair seemed to flow like liquid metal even in stasis, the almost ethereal beauty that was both alien and somehow familiar. "She's beautiful," he said and meant it. "She has her father's eyes," Lorelei replied, then paused. "Had. He died in the war against the Void Swarm, 3 years before Aelin was created. She carries his genetic patterns as well as mine." Marcus felt a pang of sympathy for the young princess who would never know her father, combined with appreciation for the complexity of Zephyrian reproductive technology. Princess Aelin wasn't just a clone. She was a carefully crafted combination of her parents' best genetic qualities. "Are you ready, Dr. Webb?" Zorthak asked, his hands moving over the stasis field controls. Marcus looked around the assembled court one final time, meeting the eyes of beings whose civilization was older than human recorded history, all watching to see if their ancient prophecies would be fulfilled by a single human's desperate gamble. The weight of their expectations was almost crushing, but through his link with Lyrelai, he felt her unwavering confidence in him. "I'm ready," he said, and stepped into the stasis field. The moment he crossed the energy barrier, Marcus felt reality shift around him. The quantum field that maintained Princess Aelin's life support enveloped him like warm water, and suddenly he could sense her consciousness directly, not filtered through technology or neural links, but as a raw presence in his mind. She was stronger than he'd expected, her awareness sharp despite her physical condition. As he settled beside her in the crystalline matrix that served as a medical bed, her eyes fluttered open, revealing irises that shifted between silver and deep blue like storm clouds over an alien sea. "You came," she whispered, her voice carrying the same musical quality as her mother's, but with a younger, more uncertain note. "I wasn't sure. The dream showed you, but dreams aren't always real." "I'm here," Marcus replied, carefully positioning himself according to Zorthak's whispered instructions. "And I'm going to do everything I can to help you." Princess Aelin studied his face with an intensity that was both innocent and surprisingly mature. "You're not what I expected a human to look like. Your quantum signature? It feels like coming home." Before Marcus could respond to that startling statement, Zorthak's voice echoed through the medical bay. "The ceremonial bonding will now commence. Dr. Webb, place your hands on Princess Aelin's temples. The quantum entanglement process will begin automatically once neural contact is established." Marcus hesitated for just a moment. Once he made this contact, there would be no going back. He would be committed not just to saving Princess Aelin's life, but to binding himself to her and her mother for the rest of what could be a very long existence. Through the transparent barrier of the stasis field, he could see Lyrelai watching with desperate hope. Her quantum signature reached across the space between them, offering encouragement and love in equal measure. Whatever happened next, he wouldn't face it alone. "Princess Aylin," he said formally, "do you consent to this bonding? Do you understand what it will mean for both of us?" Her smile was radiant despite her obvious weakness. "I've been waiting for you my entire life, Marcus Webb. I consent freely and with joy." Marcus placed his hands gently on her temples, and the universe exploded. The sensation was unlike anything he had ever experienced, not painful, but so intense it overwhelmed every sense. Through the contact, Princess Aylin's consciousness flooded into his own, and he into hers. For a terrifying moment, Marcus wasn't sure where he ended and she began. "Easy," her mental voice whispered, warm and reassuring despite their shared disorientation. "Let the boundaries dissolve naturally. Fighting, it will only make it harder." Marcus forced himself to relax, allowing the quantum entanglement to proceed without resistance. Gradually, the chaos of merged consciousness began to settle into patterns. He could still sense his own thoughts and memories, but now they were complemented by Aylin's perspectives and experiences. Through her eyes, he saw his own face, alien but kind, with features that she found handsome in a rugged, distinctly human way. Through her memories, he experienced her childhood in the crystal palaces of the Zephyrian homeworld, her fascination with the stars, her studies in quantum mechanics and xenobiology that had prepared her for eventual rulership. And underneath it all, he felt her loneliness. Despite being surrounded by courtiers and teachers, Princess Aylin had spent most of her life feeling isolated, different from other Zephyrians in ways she couldn't articulate. The realization that her sense of incompleteness had been because she was waiting for him to complete their bond was both humbling and terrifying. "I feel it too," he sent back through their growing connection. "Like I've been incomplete my entire life without knowing it." The quantum resonance between them began to stabilize, their neural patterns synchronizing in ways that human science couldn't explain. Marcus felt his consciousness expanding, gaining new senses and capabilities as Princess Aylin's biology influenced his own. At the same time, he could feel her growing stronger, her quantum signature becoming more coherent as his human resilience reinforced her failing systems. But something else was happening. Something the monitoring equipment couldn't detect, but that both of them felt acutely. Lyrelai's presence was growing stronger in their shared consciousness, the genetic resonance between mother and daughter creating a three-way neural link that defied every principle of quantum mechanics. "Mother?" Princess Aylin's mental voice carried surprise and delight. "You're part of this too?" "I couldn't stay away," Lyrelai's consciousness replied, her quantum signature blazing with love and relief as she felt her daughter's strength returning. "The bond between you and Marcus is resonating through our genetic connection. We're becoming a true triad." Marcus found himself at the center of something unprecedented, a three-way psychic bond that linked him not just to Princess Aylin, but to Queen Lyrelai as well. The sensation was overwhelming, but also profoundly right, as if the universe had been waiting for this exact combination of consciousness to come together. Through their shared awareness, he experienced both their perspectives simultaneously. Lyrelai's centuries of wisdom and responsibility, her deep love for her daughter and growing affection for him. Aylin's youth and curiosity, her brilliant mind and genuine excitement at finally meeting her bonded mate, and binding them all together, his own human perspective. Analytical, determined, and utterly committed to protecting both of them. "The healing is working," Princess Aylin observed, her mental voice growing stronger by the moment. "I can feel the quantum fever patterns breaking down, replaced by stable resonance from our bond." She was right. Through their connection, Marcus could sense the disease that had been killing her. Chaotic quantum fluctuations that disrupted cellular coherence. But now, reinforced by his human neural patterns and Lyrelai's genetic resonance, her quantum signature was stabilizing into something new and powerful. The monitoring equipment around them began registering readings that made the assembled healers gasp in amazement. Princess Aylin's life signs weren't just improving. They were surpassing normal Zephyrian parameters, enhanced by the quantum fusion with Marcus's human physiology. We're changing, Marcus realized, feeling his own biology adapting in response to the bond. His neural implants were interfacing directly with Zephyrian quantum technology, while his cellular structure was gaining the crystalline properties that gave Zephyrians their longevity and energy-based abilities. Yes, Lyrelai confirmed, her consciousness wrapping around both of theirs with protective warmth. You're becoming something new, the first true human Zephyrian hybrid. The prophecies spoke of such a being, one who would bridge the gap between species and herald a new age of cooperation. The prophecies, again. Marcus made a mental note to ask about those in detail once the immediate crisis was past. For now, he was content to experience the wonder of consciousness expansion as his awareness stretched to encompass abilities he'd never imagined. Through Princess Aylin's enhanced senses, he could perceive quantum fields directly, seeing the underlying energy, patterns that governed matter and space. Through Lyrelai's experience, he gained understanding of how to manipulate those fields, using consciousness itself as a tool for affecting physical reality. This is incredible, he sent to both of them. I can see why your people consider neural bonding sacred. It's not just connection, it's evolution. And we're just beginning, Princess Aylin replied, her excitement infectious. Wait until you experience quantum flight, or learn to communicate with the ship's consciousness directly. There's so much I want to show you. Her enthusiasm was endearing, but Marcus could also sense deeper currents in her emotions. Despite her youth, Princess Aylin carried the weight of future rulership, the knowledge that someday she would be responsible for billions of lives. The prospect of facing that responsibility alone had been terrifying. But now, bonded to him, and through him to her mother, she felt ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. You won't be alone, he assured her. Whatever comes, we'll face it together. The quantum entanglement process was reaching completion, their three consciousness patterns weaving together into a stable configuration that was somehow greater than the sum of its parts. Marcus felt his individual identity remain intact while simultaneously becoming part of something larger and more complex. Through the stasis field's transparent barriers, he could see the assembled Zephyrian court watching in wonder as bioluminescent patterns played across all three of their bodies, his own pale human skin now showing traces of the opalescent glow that marked successful neural bonding. High Healer Zorthak's voice penetrated their shared consciousness. The primary bonding is complete. Neural patterns are stable and synchronized. Princess Aylin's quantum signature is now reinforced by hybrid resonance. She is healed. The relief that flooded through their three-way link was so intense it threatened to overwhelm them. Princess Aylin was safe, her life no longer hanging by a thread. But more than that, the success of the bonding had proven something that would reshape both their civilizations. Humans and Zephyrians were not just compatible, they were meant to be partners. We should probably address the court, Lyrelai suggested, her consciousness radiating amusement at their reluctance to leave the intimate space of the stasis field. They're going to want formal confirmation that the prophecies have been fulfilled. Do we have to? Princess Aylin asked plaintively. I've just bonded with my mate, and I want to spend time learning how his mind works without dozens of courtiers watching. Marcus felt a surge of affection for both of them, Lyrelai's queenly sense of duty warring with her desire to give her daughter privacy, Aylin's natural curiosity about her new bondmate conflicting with her royal obligations. Through their shared consciousness, he could sense possible futures branching out before them, some filled with joy and discovery, others shadowed by the political complications that would inevitably arise from their unprecedented union. We'll have time, he assured Princess Aylin. But your mother's right. We need to establish the legitimacy of this bond before anyone can question it. The stasis field powered down around them, and Marcus helped Princess Aylin sit up, marveling at how, naturally, their movements synchronized. Where before she had been weak and fading, now she moved with fluid grace, her enhanced physiology already adapting to incorporate his human resilience. As they emerged from the medical apparatus, the assembled court erupted in what Marcus assumed was applause, a harmonious chiming sound created by dozens of Zephyrians touching their crystalline crowns in unison. The quantum resonance of the sound was beautiful and somehow meaningful, though he didn't yet understand the cultural significance. It's the chorus of celebration, Princess Aelin explained through their link. They're acknowledging the successful completion of a royal bonding. You're officially a prince of the Third Hegemony now. Prince Marcus of the Third Hegemony. The title felt surreal, but through his bond with both Lyrelai and Aelin, he could sense the weight of responsibility it carried. He was no longer just a xenobiologist. He was now part of the ruling family of one of the galaxy's most powerful civilizations. Queen Lyrelai approached them, her expression radiant with joy and relief. To the assembled court, she probably looked like a queen celebrating her daughter's recovery and successful bonding. But through their shared consciousness, Marcus could feel the complex mix of emotions she was experiencing: maternal love, romantic attraction, political calculation, and genuine happiness all swirling together. "My lords and ladies of the court," she announced, her voice carrying easily through the vast medical bay. "I present to you Princess Aelin, restored to health, and Prince Marcus, her bonded mate and bridge between our species." The ceremonial response from the court was immediate and overwhelming. More complex harmonics that seemed to celebrate not just the successful bonding, but the fulfillment of ancient hopes and dreams. Through Aelin's cultural knowledge, Marcus understood that he was witnessing something unprecedented in Zephyrian history. "They're calling you the Starwalker," she explained, her mental voice tinged with awe. "The one prophesied to unite the children of crystal and the children of iron." "I didn't realize." "Marcus, you're not just my bonded mate. According to our oldest prophecies, you're the herald of a new age." The weight of prophetic expectation settled over Marcus like a mantle. He'd come aboard this ship thinking he might save one dying princess. Instead, he'd apparently fulfilled ancient prophecies and become a figure of galactic significance. Through their bond, he felt Lyrelai's gentle amusement at his overwhelm. "Welcome to royal life, my dear prince. Nothing is ever simple when you're responsible for the fate of civilizations." As the formal ceremonies continued around them, Marcus found himself studying the faces of the assembled Zephyrians. Some showed genuine joy and celebration. Others barely concealed skepticism about the human who had suddenly been elevated to royal status. The political ramifications of this bonding would ripple through Zephyrian society for generations. But, beneath the pageantry and politics, he remained focused on what truly mattered. The young woman beside him whose life he had saved, and who had in turn saved something in him he hadn't known was broken. Through their bond, he could feel Princess Aelin's thoughts and emotions as clearly as his own, and what he found there filled him with hope for their shared future. "Are you having second thoughts?" she asked privately, sensing his contemplation of the challenges ahead. Marcus looked into her storm-gray eyes, seeing intelligence, kindness, and a strength that belied her apparent youth. Through their connection, he could sense her complete certainty about their bond, her excitement about the life they would build together, and her unwavering commitment to using their unique partnership to benefit both their species. "Not for a moment," he replied honestly. "Though I have to admit, when I woke up this morning, becoming an alien prince wasn't on my agenda." Her laughter through their mental link was like music, infectious and joyful. "Well, tomorrow morning you'll wake up as my bonded mate, co-heir to the Third Hegemony, and the most politically significant human in known space. How does that sound for an agenda?" "Terrifying and wonderful," Marcus admitted, "but mostly wonderful." The formal ceremonies were winding down, and Marcus could sense through their three-way bond that both Lyrelai and Aelin were eager to move to more private celebrations. The political necessity of public acknowledgement had been satisfied. Now they could focus on the personal reality of their unprecedented family structure. "There will be a private ceremony later," Lyrelai informed them through their shared consciousness. "The formal bonding rites, where you'll be inducted into the royal family in full. But for now, I think we all need time to process what has happened." As they prepared to leave the medical bay, Marcus caught sight of himself in the polished crystalline surfaces that covered the walls. His appearance had changed subtly but noticeably. His skin now held faint traces of opalescent shimmer, and his eyes showed flecks of silver that hadn't been there before. The bonding process had left permanent marks, visible proof of his transformation from human to something new. You're beautiful, Princess Aylin observed, following his gaze. The hybrid characteristics suit you. You look like you belong with us. Do you think your people will accept me? Marcus asked, noting how some of the courtiers were still watching him with obvious uncertainty. They'll have to, Lirelai interjected, with quiet steel in her mental voice. You're bonded to the heir to the throne, which makes you family by law and custom. Anyone who challenges your legitimacy challenges the crown itself. But Marcus could sense deeper currents of concern in both their minds. His elevation to royal status would create political complications, not just within Zephyrian society, but throughout the galaxy. The Alliance would want to know how one of their xenobiologists had suddenly become alien royalty. Other species would question what this unprecedented bonding meant for the balance of power in known space. One crisis at a time, Princess Aylin said firmly, reading his thoughts through their bond. Right now, the important thing is that I'm alive. We're bonded, and we have the rest of our considerably extended lives to figure out the politics. As they left the medical bay together, Princess, Queen, and newly minted Prince, Marcus felt the weight of the future settling around them. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, political complications, and responsibilities he was only beginning to understand. But tonight, he had saved a life, formed bonds that transcended species, and taken the first step toward becoming something greater than he had ever imagined possible. Through the quantum crystalline walls of the ethereal dawn, the stars wheeled, in their eternal dance, indifferent to the drama of individual lives. But Marcus felt as if the universe itself was watching, holding its breath to see what three bonded consciousness could accomplish when love, duty, and determination aligned across the void between species. The private quarters assigned to them were sumptuous beyond anything Marcus had experienced. A flowing suite of interconnected chambers carved from living crystal, with furniture that responded to their bioelectric fields and viewports that offered spectacular views of the starfield beyond. But the luxury was secondary to the simple miracle of being alone together for the first time since the bonding. This is surreal, Marcus admitted, settling onto what appeared to be a couch, but felt more like a formation of warm, supportive crystal. This morning, I was a researcher on a medical frigate. Tonight, I'm an alien prince with a psychic bond to two of the most important people in known space. Does it feel wrong? Princess Aylin asked, curling up beside him with the unconscious grace that seemed natural to all Zephyrians. The bonding, I mean. Are you comfortable with how connected we've become? Marcus considered the question carefully. Through their bond, he could feel everything she was feeling. Her contentment at finally being healthy, her excitement about their partnership, her genuine affection for him that was growing stronger by the hour. It should have been overwhelming, invasive, a violation of mental privacy. Instead, it felt like coming home. It feels right, he said honestly. More right than anything I've ever experienced. But I'm worried about the practical implications. We're essentially married by Zephyrian law, but we barely know each other outside of this quantum connection. We have time to learn, Aylin replied, her mental voice warm with affection. Bonded pairs typically spend years exploring their connection, learning how to balance individual identity with shared consciousness. And we have advantages most couples don't. Such as complete emotional honesty, Lirelai interjected, her consciousness joining their private conversation as naturally as if she had entered the room. Neural bonding makes deception impossible. You'll always know exactly how she feels about you, and she'll know your feelings with equal clarity. That was both reassuring and terrifying. Marcus had spent most of his adult life maintaining careful, emotional boundaries, protecting himself from the kind of vulnerability that could be exploited. The idea of being completely open to another consciousness, let alone two, required a fundamental shift in how he thought about relationships. I can feel your fear, Princess Aylin observed gently. You've been hurt before, haven't you? Someone you trusted betrayed that trust. Through their bond, Marcus felt memories surfacing. His ex-fiancée Sarah, who had left him for a colonial administrator when his research career took him to the outer colonies. The betrayal had been devastating not just because of the broken relationship, but because he'd thought they shared the same values, the same commitment to helping others through scientific advancement. She couldn't understand why you chose service, Over personal ambition, Aelin realized, experiencing his memories as if they were her own. She wanted you to be someone you weren't, and I trusted her judgment over my own instincts, Marcus admitted. Made me careful about emotional investment. Good thing bonding doesn't give you a choice, Lyreley observed with gentle humor. Ready or not, you're emotionally invested in both of us now, it was true. Through their quantum connection, Marcus could feel himself caring for both Lyreley and Aelin with an intensity that bypassed all his carefully constructed defenses. The bond had created instant intimacy, but also instant responsibility. Their well-being was now linked to his own at the most fundamental level. Is this how bonded relationships always work among your people? He asked. To some degree, Aelin replied. But what we have is unprecedented. Mother and I share genetic resonance because I'm her clone. You and I are bonded as mates, and your connection with Mother exists because of the genetic link. We're not just a bonded pair. We're a quantum triad. Which brings up interesting questions about relationship dynamics, Lyreley added, her mental tone carefully neutral. Traditional Zephyrian bonding involves two individuals. We're going to have to create our own precedents. Marcus sensed undercurrents of emotion in both their consciousness: attraction, uncertainty, hope, and something that might have been desire. The political implications of their three-way bond were complex enough, but the personal implications were even more challenging. Are you asking what I think you're asking? He said, carefully. I'm asking, Lyreley replied with characteristic directness, whether you're prepared for the reality that our neural bond creates emotional and physical attraction between all three of us, and whether you're comfortable exploring what that might mean. The question hung in their shared consciousness like a challenge. Marcus had felt the attraction to Lyreley from their first contact. Her beauty, intelligence, and strength were impossible to ignore. But she was also Aelin's mother, and the ethics of that situation were unclear by any human standard. By Zephyrian standards, Aelin interjected, reading his thoughts, genetic relationship is less important than quantum compatibility. Mother and I are genetically identical, but we're also separate individuals with our own consciousness patterns. If you're bonded to both of us, then you're connected to both of us in all ways. It's not just acceptable in our culture, Lyreley added. It's expected. Quantum triads share everything: emotional support, physical intimacy, decision-making authority. It's considered the most stable and powerful form of bonding possible. Marcus felt his worldview shifting again. Human concepts of family structure, sexual ethics, and relationship boundaries didn't apply when consciousness could be shared at the quantum level. What mattered wasn't genetic relationship or social convention, but the reality of their psychic connection and the feelings it generated. I need time to process this, he said honestly. Not because I'm rejecting the idea, but because it's so far outside my experience that I want to make sure I understand what we're all agreeing to. Of course, Aelin replied, her mental voice warm with understanding. We have all the time in the universe. But Marcus, I want you to know that whatever we decide about the physical aspects of our bond, I'm already completely committed to you emotionally. The connection we've formed isn't just attraction, it's love. The simple honesty of her declaration took his breath away. Through their bond, he could feel the truth of her emotions. Not the infatuation of youth, but genuine affection based on what she had learned about his character through their merged consciousness. I love you too, he replied, surprising himself with how easily the words came. Both of you. The bonding process didn't just connect our minds. It showed me who you really are underneath the royal titles and political responsibilities. And what I found there is extraordinary. The wave of happiness that flowed through their three-way connection was so intense it was almost overwhelming. For a moment, all the complexity and uncertainty faded, leaving only the simple reality of three consciousness that had found each other across the void between species. Their intimate moment was interrupted by a soft chime from the suite's communication system. Lyreley's mental presence shifted into queenly mode as she accepted the incoming message. What is it? Aelin asked, sensing her mother's change in mood. The Alliance fleet has arrived, Lyreley replied grimly, and they're demanding an explanation for what they're calling the unauthorized abduction of one of their officers. Marcus felt the political reality of his situation crashing back down around him. In the joy of successful bonding and the wonder of new love, he'd temporarily forgotten that he was supposed to be a human xenobiologist, not an alien prince. The Alliance would want him back, and they wouldn't accept, "I got married to alien" royalty as a sufficient explanation for his absence. "How much trouble am I in?" he asked. "That depends," Lirelai replied, "on whether you're willing to officially defect from the Alliance to join the Zephyrian nobility. Because that's essentially what bonding with Aelin means in political terms, and if I'm not willing, then we have a diplomatic crisis that could threaten the Alliance-Zephyrian cooperation agreement that's currently holding the line against the Void Swarm," Aelin said bluntly. "No pressure." Marcus closed his eyes, feeling the weight of political necessity settling over their personal happiness. One way or another, the next few hours would determine not just the future of their relationship, but the stability of the galactic alliance that was humanity's best hope for survival. "Well," he said finally, "I suppose it's time to find out if love really can conquer politics." Through their bond, he felt both Lirelai's determination and Aelin's unwavering support. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he wouldn't face them alone. And perhaps that would be enough to navigate the treacherous waters of interstellar diplomacy. The stars outside their viewport continued their eternal dance, indifferent to the drama of mortal lives. But Marcus felt as if the fate of civilizations hung in the balance, waiting to see whether three bonded hearts could find a way to bridge the gap between duty and desire, politics and love, species and species. Time would tell, but for tonight, he was exactly where he belonged. Connected to two extraordinary beings who had already changed his life in ways he was only beginning to understand. The Alliance command deck materialized around them as the quantum transport completed, Admiral Harrison's stern face greeting Marcus with barely contained fury. Captain Rodriguez stood nearby, looking relieved but concerned, while a full diplomatic contingent waited with expressions ranging from curiosity to outright hostility. "Dr. Webb," Admiral Harrison began, his voice ice-cold. "You will explain immediately why you've been missing for 18 hours and why our sensors indicate you've undergone unauthorized biological modification." Marcus felt Lirelai and Aelin's presence in his mind, their consciousness offering strength and support even across the vast distance between ships. Through their bond, he could sense their readiness to fight for him if necessary, but also their trust in his ability to handle this confrontation. "Admiral," Marcus replied calmly, "I've been participating in a medical procedure that saved Princess Aelin's life and fulfilled ancient prophecies linking our species. In the process, I've formed a permanent neural bond with the Zephyrian royal family." "You've what?" Harrison's face went red. "Dr. Webb, you're a commissioned officer in the Alliance Medical Corps. You cannot simply decide to marry alien royalty without authorization." "Actually," interrupted a new voice, "he can." Ambassador Chen stepped forward, her diplomatic credentials gleaming on her uniform. "The Alliance Charter specifically protects the right of citizens to form legal unions with compatible species, provided such unions don't compromise classified information or strategic assets." "This is different," Harrison protested. "He's bonded to their royal family. The political implications are entirely positive," Queen Lirelai interjected as she materialized on the command deck in a shimmer of quantum energy, Princess Aelin beside her. The assembled Alliance officers gasped as mother and daughter moved with synchronized grace, their opalescent skin glowing with barely contained power. "Your Majesty," Ambassador Chen said with a deep bow. "We weren't expecting—" "I came to formally request Prince Marcus's transfer to diplomatic status," Lirelai announced, her voice carrying absolute authority. "As bonded mate to my heir, he now holds dual citizenship and serves as our official liaison to the Alliance." Through their bond, Marcus felt both women's fierce protectiveness and their complete confidence in this moment. They had planned for this confrontation, using their political acumen to transform potential crisis into opportunity. "Furthermore," Princess Aelin added, her young voice carrying surprising steel, "our bonding has provided unprecedented insights into human Zephyrian compatibility. Dr. Webb's research applications alone justify his new status." Admiral Harrison looked between them, clearly recognizing a fait accompli when he saw one. "And if we refuse to recognize this arrangement?" Lyralee's smile was beautiful and terrifying. Then you lose your most effective xenobiologist, your strongest ally against the Void Swarm, and any hope of the technological cooperation that has kept your colonies safe. The silence stretched until Ambassador Chen cleared her throat. Admiral, I recommend we accept Dr. Webb's new status and negotiate a formal diplomatic agreement. This could be the beginning of unprecedented human-Zephyrian cooperation. Harrison's shoulders sagged in defeat. Very well. Dr. Webb, Prince Marcus, your commission is hereby transferred to Diplomatic Corps with full ambassadorial privileges. Marcus felt relief flood through their three-way bond, followed immediately by joy and triumph. They had done it. Love had indeed conquered politics, at least for now. Epilogue, 1 year later. The crystal gardens of the Zephyrian homeworld sparkled in the light of twin suns as Marcus watched his wives, for that's what they truly were now, tend to the quantum flowers that bloomed in response to their shared consciousness. The political ramifications of their unprecedented marriage had rippled through galactic society, but the results had been overwhelmingly positive. Human-Zephyrian cooperation had reached new heights, their combined technologies proving devastatingly effective against the Void Swarm. Other species had begun exploring similar bonds, seeing the strength that came from true unity between different forms of consciousness. Are you happy? Aelin asked through their bond, her mental voice warm with contentment as she moved to his side. Completely, Marcus replied, pulling both his wives close as Lyralee joined them. Through their connection, he could feel their shared satisfaction, not just in their personal happiness, but in the knowledge that their love had helped reshape the galaxy. In the distance, construction crews worked on the new human-Zephyrian research facility that would serve as a model for interspecies cooperation. Children of both species played together in the gardens, their laughter a promise of a future where differences were celebrated, rather than feared. Marcus Webb had set out to save one dying princess and had ended up helping to unite civilizations. As he stood with his bonded mates, watching the sun set over an alien world that had become home, he reflected that sometimes the universe had plans far grander than anything mortals could imagine. Love, as it turned out, really could conquer all. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.